richest president. Vladimir Putin officially earns $140,000 a year. That's barely enough for a decent apartment in Moscow. Yet somehow, he's worth at least $200 billion, making him potentially the richest head of state on the planet. How does a former KGB agent with a government salary accumulate wealth that rivals entire nations? Simple. You don't ask nicely. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia's most valuable assets got divided among a handful of oligarchs. Putin flipped the script. According to Bill Browder's testimony to the U.S. Senate, Putin started demanding 50% cuts from these billionaires. Refuse, and you end up like Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who spent a decade in prison after challenging Putin's authority. The message was clear. You're not rich. You're just holding my money. The Panama Papers exposed a network of over 20,000 shell companies connected to Putin's inner circle. Childhood friends who were barely scraping by suddenly owned billion-dollar assets. His bodyguard somehow acquired a multi-million-dollar yacht. It's a money laundering operation disguised as a government. Putin's alleged Black Sea Palace cost $1.4 billion and includes a casino, underground hockey rink, and yes, a hookah lounge. Meanwhile, the average Russian pension sits at $500 a month. While his people face sanctions and poverty, Putin reportedly hides a $4 billion art collection and owns yachts worth hundreds of millions. The genius of Putin's wealth is that it doesn't officially exist. There's no Forbes profile, no public portfolio, just whispers, shell companies, and the occasional leaked document showing money trails that vanish into Swiss banks and Cypriot tax havens. Challenge any of it? Good luck. Critics have a funny habit of falling out of windows. Richest divorcee. Most people think MacKenzie Scott is the laziest billionaire to ever exist, but have they really bothered with the full story? In 2019, MacKenzie Scott walked away from her marriage to Jeff Bezos with $38 billion in Amazon stock. That's 4% of the company she helped build from a garage while writing novels on the side. The media called it the most expensive divorce in history. She called it expensive therapy with unlimited prime shipping. But here's where Scott does something unusual for billionaires. She actually gives the money away. Since her divorce, she's donated over $19 billion to more than 2,000 organizations. No applications, no bureaucracy, no naming rights. She just wires the money and disappears. HBCUs, food banks, climate groups, causes that typically beg for scraps suddenly get 8-figure checks with 0 strings attached.
Sounds great, right? Except some critics argue this no accountability approach is billionaire whimsy disguised as philanthropy. Who decides which organizations deserve millions? What oversight exists? Scott's team operates through something called yield giving, a structure so opaque it makes offshore accounts look transparent. Then there's the tax angle. Every dollar she donates is a dollar she doesn't pay capital gains tax on. Some financial analysts suggest this isn't charity, it's wealth preservation. Offload Amazon stock before antitrust regulators come knocking, get the tax write-off, and maintain influence without the scrutiny. Scott was there from the beginning, writing Amazon's first business plan while Bezos pitched to investors. Her 2019 pledge to give until the safe is empty resonated because it felt personal, raw even. Whether it's genuine altruism or the world's most sophisticated tax strategy, Scott has redefined what divorce settlements can buy. Either redemption or really good PR. Unlike MacKenzie, Valentina Paloma never had to break a family to inherit her billions. She was born into them. Valentina Paloma Pinault, daughter of actress Salma Hayek and French billionaire François-Henri Pinault, is set to inherit a $12 billion fortune from the Kering empire. That's Gucci, Saint Laurent, Balenciaga, luxury brands that define what rich people wear when they want other rich people to know they're rich. Valentina's first steps weren't in a suburban living room, they were on a private jet somewhere over the Atlantic. Salma joked in interviews that her daughter's trust fund is for her doll collection, but the reality is far more extravagant. At 12, Valentina appeared on the cover of Vogue Mexico alongside her mother, instantly sparking Nepo baby debates across the internet. Here's the part that gets weird. Despite being one of the wealthiest heirs on the planet, Valentina is almost invisible. Her family shields her from paparazzi with military precision. No social media presence, no tabloid scandals, nothing. It's as if the Pinaults are hiding her in plain sight. Some speculate this invisibility is strategic. François-Henri's $40 billion empire operates through a web of trusts designed to dodge French inheritance taxes. Rumors suggest Valentina's occasional modeling appearances aren't teenage fun, they're boardroom training, teaching her how to manage an empire before she's old enough to legally drink. Let's take a break from being human and include our primal friends in this conversation. Meet Gunther VI, a German shepherd worth $500 million. Yes, a dog. He owns mansions, yachts, and employs 27 people whose job is literally to cater to a canine. Gunther once bought Donna's former Miami mansion for $29 million. Why chase tennis balls when you can lounge on Italian yachts with a personal chef preparing steak tartare? The story goes like this. A German countess named Carlotta Liebenstein lost her son to suicide and left her $80 million fortune to her dog, Gunther III. That fortune passed down through generations of German shepherds, growing to $500 million through savvy real estate investments. It's a heartwarming tale of generational wealth. Except for one problem. It's completely fake. In 2023, a Netflix documentary exposed the whole thing as an elaborate hoax. The Countess never existed. The fortune actually belongs to Maurizio Mian, an Italian pharmaceutical heir whose family had ties to some very questionable people. Mian invented the Gunther story to hide his wealth from Italian tax authorities and possibly launder money through what he called the Gunther Trust. Rumors suggest the trust operates as a shell network funneling millions through fake pet charities and art deals. Some investigators believe it's connected to organized crime, using a dog as the world's fluffiest front for financial crimes. Meanwhile, Gunther lives better than 99% of humans. He has butlers, beachfront properties, and a staff dedicated to his comfort. Millions of dogs sit in shelters waiting for someone to adopt them, while one fictional dog's fabricated fortune could fund every animal rescue in Europe. The saddest part? People believed it because they wanted to. Richest footballer. I'll bet my girlfriend that you first imagined see Ronaldo or Leo Messi. You never saw this coming. This guy scored just one goal in 5 years, but that goal is worth $20 billion. Faik Bolkiah is a professional footballer currently playing in Thailand for around $4,000 a month. He's also the nephew of Brunei's Sultan and heir to a $20 billion oil fortune. His uncle owns 7,000 cars, including 350 Rolls-Royces. Faik could buy the entire Premier League twice and still have change for a decent yacht collection. So why is he grinding in Thailand's lower leagues instead of retiring to a palace? According to interviews, Faik genuinely loves football. He trained at Chelsea and Arsenal academies as a teenager, dreaming of making it on his own merit. The problem is, he's not very good. One goal in 5 years isn't a career highlight, it's a statistical anomaly. This raises uncomfortable questions. Are clubs signing him for his talent or his connections? Some whisper that his contracts are state-funded arrangements, bribes disguised as salaries. Brunei's $154 billion oil wealth flows through opaque royal accounts. Some tabloids suggest Faik's European education and football academies function as laundering fronts, using sports infrastructure to move money quietly, while his family faces international criticism for human rights abuses. Faik grew up in England, away from Brunei's golden palaces, raised by his mother alongside 3 sisters. He speaks about wanting normalcy, chasing a dream separate from inherited wealth. It's almost tragic. A prince pretending to be ordinary in a sport where talent usually decides your worth, not your bloodline.
Richest scammer. Bernie Madoff promised investors consistent 11% annual returns, no matter what the market did. If that sounds too good to be true, congratulations, you're smarter than Harvard endowments and Steven Spielberg's accountant. Madoff ran a $65 billion Ponzi scheme for nearly 30 years. A Ponzi scheme is simple. You use new investors' money to pay old investors. No actual investing happens. It's a financial house of cards held together by lies and Excel spreadsheets. Madoff was so good at it, he became chairman of NASDAQ while running the scam. Imagine the head of the stock exchange secretly being a con artist. It's like hiring a pyromaniac as fire chief. The wildest part? People tried to warn regulators. Harry Markopolos, a financial analyst, figured out Madoff was a fraud in 2000 and handed the SEC a detailed report titled "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." They ignored him for 8 years. The SEC received multiple tips but did nothing until Madoff's own sons turned him in after he confessed the whole thing was collapsing.
When the scheme finally fell apart in 2008, thousands lost everything. Charities shut down. Elie Wiesel, Holocaust survivor and Nobel laureate, lost his life savings. Madoff's son Mark hanged himself in 2010. His other son Andrew died of cancer in 2014, blaming the stress from his father's crimes. Madoff died in prison in 2021 at 82, serving a 150-year sentence. He told reporters he had nightmares about his victims. Too little, too late. The man who built an empire on trust destroyed lives for decades, and the people meant to stop him were asleep at the wheel. Never look down on anyone. I mean anyone at all, because, well, you're about to find out. Bharat Jain begs for money at Mumbai train stations. He is also a millionaire with over $1 million in assets, including multiple properties and a stationery business. His daily earnings? Around $720 to $900. That's more than most software engineers make in India. Jain has been begging for over 40 years. His sons went to convent schools, one of the most expensive education systems in India. He owns 2 apartments worth roughly $146,000 and collects $360 a month in rental income. His family keeps telling him to retire. He refuses, claiming he genuinely enjoys begging. "I'm not greedy," he tells reporters, while donating portions of his earnings to temples. This raises uncomfortable questions. Mumbai has a massive begging network estimated to be worth billions, controlled by organized syndicates. Some investigators suspect Jain isn't just a solo operator, but possibly connected to these rings used as a model beggar to show authorities that begging is legitimate work, not exploitation. Jain was born into poverty with no formal education. He turned begging into generational wealth, giving his children opportunities he never had. There's something both inspiring and deeply sad about that. His family is embarrassed by what he does. They want him to stop. But for Jain, begging isn't desperation anymore. It's identity. The man makes more money sitting on a street corner than most people do in offices, and somehow that's both a triumph of hustle and a devastating reflection of how broken economic systems really are.
Richest widow. Alice Walton is worth $101 billion, making her the richest woman on Earth. She didn't build a company or invent anything. She inherited Walmart stock when her father Sam died in 1992. Since then, she's spent her fortune collecting art while Walmart employees qualify for food stamps. Alice owns over $500 million in artwork, housing it in her personal museum on 134 acres in Arkansas. Rothko's, Warhol's, Norman Rockwell paintings. She calls it art for the people. The irony is suffocating. The average Walmart worker earns $27,000 a year, while Alice buys paintings worth more than their lifetime earnings. There's also a darker chapter in her past that rarely gets mentioned. In 1989, Alice was involved in a fatal car crash that killed a 50-year-old woman. No charges were ever filed. Then in 1998, she was arrested for DWI after rear-ending someone. That charge mysteriously disappeared too. When you're a Walton, accountability is optional. The Panama Papers exposed Alice's use of offshore trusts to hide billions from taxes. Critics argue her philanthropy, including $407 million in family foundation grants, functions as reputation laundering, while Walmart fights unionization efforts and pays wages so low that taxpayers subsidize their employees through welfare programs. Alice never remarried, has no children, and lives quietly compared to other billionaires. She funds charter schools and art education, echoing her father's everyman values. But those values ring hollow when the empire enriching her is built on exploiting the very people Sam claimed to care about. Richest prisoner. You've probably traded on Binance to quadruple your dormant funds, but what if I told you the man who looks over your money does so from prison? Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, is worth $43 billion. He also just finished serving 4 months in a low-security U.S. prison for running the largest money laundering operation in financial history. His crime? Binance processed over $2 trillion in transactions while deliberately ignoring anti-money laundering laws. That means terror groups, drug cartels, and sanctioned regimes all used Binance to move money freely.
CZ paid a $4.3 billion fine, served his time, and walked out $20 billion richer than when he went in. Bitcoin surged while he was locked up, boosting his personal Binance holdings. His cellmates joked that his crypto wallet was the real inmate millionaire fund. Now here's where it gets suspicious. In 2025, leaked reports suggested Binance secretly powers World Liberty Financial, a crypto project tied to the Trump family. CZ's release coincided with growing political connections, leading some to question whether his short sentence was negotiated behind closed doors. 4 months for facilitating billions in illegal transactions? Most people get longer sentences for tax evasion. CZ's origin story is compelling, though. He flipped burgers at McDonald's for $4.50 an hour after fleeing China with his family. He built Binance from nothing into the world's largest crypto exchange. In interviews, he speaks emotionally about wanting to help people achieve financial freedom, claiming ignorance over regulatory violations. But financial freedom for who?
The terrorists using his platform, the cartels laundering drug money, or just CZ himself, whose net worth keeps climbing while regulators pretend 4 months in prison is justice. Now you can see how easy it is to make billions in the most ridiculous ways known to man. Which story here fascinated you the most? Which made you envious, and which left you livid with annoyance? Mine is the richest animal, footballer, and divorcee, in no particular order. If you need a part 2 for this, let me know in the comments. Stay rich.